Welcome back to Buzz TV. I'm Steve Strum. This morning we have Rainey from Sawyer Gas. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
How are you this morning, sir?
I'm great, thank you.
We were talking offset. You guys are the propane company serving Northeast Florida for the past 30 years plus.
That's correct, yes.
And you are in charge of running this operation.
I am, yes.
We were talking a little bit about, well, it's July. We are entering into a certain season that has some pretty bad rain.
Correct.
Called hurricane season.
Right.
Last year was an interesting situation that we dealt with Irma.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your company and kind of when we're talking about propane, what do we need to be prepared for as we enter into hurricane season?
Well, you know, many people use propane to power their generators in the event that the power should go out. And like last year, in that case, a lot of people lost power and weren't restored for several days. So for us, making sure our customers are prepared with their tanks full, so in the event they do have a storm, they're able to continue, especially when we talk about locations like hospitals, senior citizens locations, first responders, communications hubs, and things like that.
And we're not just talking about little tanks. Little tanks, propane, obviously at a house, but then you have actually these industrial big tanks that look like a giant Tylenol.
We're talking about tanks that have a capacity of 1,000 gallons of propane at one time to power up. Depending on the size of the generator or the complex, will depend on how many tanks and things that need to power those generators themselves.
And so Sawyer Gas serves the corporate client,
correct,
the personal client,
absolutely,
and everywhere in between.
Right.
And when we go into hurricane season, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm in a newer area. I have faculties that are going to be there, but not the case.
That's right.
We were talking a little bit before the interview. I happen to live in St. Johns County, and for those that are tuning in outside of Jacksonville, it's southeast of Jacksonville. It wasn't even where Irma hit, which was downtown Jacksonville.
Right.
Something happened, wind, a tree, became a projectile, knocked out a central communication hub, and knocked my community still building into the Stone Age for a week and a half.
That's right.
And so as we prepare for hurricane season, what are some things that you see we need to be looking to do?
Well, the main thing is that for those folks out there that have generators on their homes, is to make sure their tank has been filled recently to enable them to be able to know that they're going to be able to run the generator in the event of a power loss. In many cases, people use them for not just powering their home, but they could have a medically fragile individual in the home and they want to make sure that all the things continue to work as they need to. It could be something even like refrigeration for medication. For our senior citizens homes, we have a plan which makes sure that we check on their tanks regularly so they're prepared when a storm were to happen and they can be able to continue to power all the necessary things in the facility that they need.
And so your dedication to community is to serve all clients, but in that emergency, you have to triage.
Correct. When it becomes an emergency situation and we have our resources out there, we look at making sure that our hospitals, our senior citizen systems, citizens' homes, our medically fragile, our first responder locations, because obviously they need to keep out there on the streets working to do what they do, and also the main communications hubs, which are getting the messages out to people as to what they can expect.
And so that would be something, do you guys get prepped early for that? Is that something that you recommend people to be doing now before there's a storm?
Well, we make sure all our equipment's in good working order, and we do that on a daily basis. We make sure we have sufficient supplies on hand at all times, not just at one location, but we have several different locations in the greater Jacksonville area, which allows us to pull from that for propane to be able to service all the different areas that we find, anywhere from the Ponte Vedra to Jacksonville Beach, all the way up to Fernandina, out towards Callahan, back over toward what we call the west side, to be able to cover all our customers. We have a large customer base and we do what we can to make sure that we're prepared at all times.
And for somebody like me who went through an experience that I didn't see coming, from South Florida, I expect it to happen,
right,
but in a new area, I didn't expect to be knocked into the Stone Age.
Right.
How do people connect with you? How do they find out more, whether it's a corporate customer or a personal customer, in order to find out about how you can serve them?
Well, they can call our local office or they can go online at sawyergasfl.com and they can see all the different services we provide, and they can contact us, and we'll be glad to tell them all about how we can be of more service to them and help them be prepared.
And you can go through the assessment of where their vulnerability was and say,
Absolutely.
hey, Steve, here's your house. This is what we would recommend to make sure that you don't find yourself in that same situation. I had to evacuate my family.
Sure.
And of course, I had to guard my house because some of my neighbors running generators, it becomes a fire hazard. And there's no faculties because fires, police, everybody's gone. It's now becomes almost a demilitarized zone.
We can help them understand the type of generator they may need up to the size of tank to be able to compensate to run that generator for what they need to operate their home.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and getting us all prepared for hurricane season.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thanks for joining us on Buzz TV. If you like us, share us. Remember, live with gratitude, and as we enter hurricane season, be prepared.